3 doors down from the loudest driveway on your block sits a rusted little hatchback nobody has ever photographed, and the man who owns it could buy the whole street in cash without blinking.
You have walked past that car 1,000 times. You notice the lifted truck instead, the gleaming rims.
The neighbor who always finds a reason to mention his watch, but by the time this video ends, you will never look at a driveway the same way again.
Here is the part almost nobody tells you about money in this country. The more of it someone quietly holds, the less of it you can actually see.
It doesn't announce itself, it fades.
The loudest house on the block is frequently the most leveraged one, and the plainest one, chipped paint, decade-old coat, nothing remodeled in years, is the one sitting on a fortune nobody suspects. There's a term for it now, stealth wealth, and it isn't luck. It's a deliberate choice, and once you understand the logic behind it, you'll start spotting it everywhere.
Part of why this feels upside down is that we've been taught to read money backwards. Every feed we scroll rewards the flex, the unboxing clip, the new key fob, the balcony sunset.
We absorb thousands of these signals a week, quietly learning that wealth equals performance.
So when we actually meet someone who has it and shows nothing, our brains file them as average and move on.
The entire culture is tuned to make noise look rich and make real money look invisible, and that blind spot is exactly where the quiet ones hide.
Let's talk numbers first because they're staggering. As of 2026, something close to 24 million Americans hold millionaire status, roughly 1 in every 12 adults.
1 in 12, which means you almost certainly know several of them already, and you have no idea, because they've spent years making sure you couldn't tell.
They also don't look the way movies trained us to expect.
A massive Ramsey Solutions survey of more than 10,000 millionaires found their daily habits were almost aggressively unglamorous. 57% use a shopping list on every single trip.
93% clip coupons, many spend under $200 a month eating out. 62% went to an ordinary public university, not an elite one. These aren't people burning cash to seem impressive. They're people who trained themselves not to.
Here's the myth that same data crushed completely, that wealth is inherited. Nearly 80% of American millionaires built their fortune from zero, first generation, no head start. A separate Northwestern Mutual study from late 2025 backs this up almost exactly. 79% called their money self-made. Only about 12% said any of it was inherited.
8 in 10 got there the slow, unglamorous way, steady contributions to a workplace retirement account, and a mortgage they eventually paid off.
Barely 15% ever held a big executive title. Teachers show up constantly on these lists. So do engineers, accountants, and small business owners, the kind of person who cut their own grass for 3 decades and drove one truck the entire time.
Fidelity now counts more than 500,000 people whose retirement account alone has crossed 7 figures, a group that grew by over a quarter in a single recent year.
Almost none of them look wealthy. They just kept feeding the same account while everyone around them was busy performing success.
Why does this matter so much? If 4 out of 5 millionaires got there from ordinary paychecks, then the quiet route isn't some secret reserved for the lucky.
It's a repeatable set of habits almost anyone with steady income can copy.
The real obstacle was never a trust fund. It's that the quiet path looks like nothing while you're living it, and the loud path looks like everything.
So most people abandon the boring road for the exciting one and drive straight into a ditch. Nowhere is that clearer than in the driveway.
Ask people what a millionaire drives, and they'll say Mercedes, BMW, something low in Italian. The real answer is almost comedic.
The single most common car brand among American millionaires is Toyota, at roughly 16%, with Honda close behind at 15%.
An Experian study found that 61% of households pulling in over $400,000 a year skip luxury brands entirely. They drive the same dependable, forgettable cars as everyone else. This holds true all the way to the top. For years, the man who built Amazon drove a Honda Accord. The billionaire who runs one of the world's biggest social platforms wears the same plain t-shirt, heard on repeat, and has driven a Honda too.
Warren Buffett, one of the richest humans alive, still lives in the same unremarkable Omaha house he bought in 1958 for about $31,000.
These people could buy a fleet of supercars before lunch. They choose boring on purpose. So if the wealthy can afford anything and pick nothing flashy, why?
There are a handful of real reasons, and each one will change how you look at the people around you.
Reason 1 is the coldest to the wealthy. Flexing is a tax and they refuse to pay it. Picture what a status purchase actually costs.
A luxury SUV that lists at $70,000 starts bleeding value the moment you drive it off the lot.
Compare that to a reliable car at $28,000 doing the exact same job. That's a $42,000 gap.
Invest that gap in a simple index fund earning roughly 8% a year, and in 3 decades it becomes more than $420,000.
That's the real price tag on the fancy car, not $70,000, but closer to $400,000 in future wealth quietly handed away to impress strangers at a red light.
You don't even need a lump sum for this math to bite.
Even $500 a month, about the size of an average car payment, invested at that same 8% grows to roughly $745,000 over 30 years.
The wealthy simply fed that number instead of the dealership. Same dollars, wildly different ending.
And the flashy car never travels alone. It drags a whole chain behind it. Pricier insurance, premium fuel, expensive repairs, sometimes even a nicer neighborhood and bigger mortgage to match.
One loud purchase quietly breeds a dozen more. The wealthy see the entire chain, not just the sticker price. And every dollar spent looking rich is a dollar that can never actually make them rich.
Reason 2 is about audience. Loud spending is almost always a message aimed outward. It says, "Look at me, I made it."
And the people who need to send that message hardest are usually the least certain it's true. New money, insecure money, money with something to prove and no proof yet, is the money that shouts.
It's buying evidence because it doesn't feel real yet on the inside. Settled wealth stops needing applause.
Once your finances genuinely have your back, a stranger's opinion in a parking lot becomes worth exactly nothing.
Take a retired shop teacher we'll call Marcus. 40 years of quietly maxing out his retirement account, never once feeling the itch to prove anything to the neighbors.
He already knew what he had. The person who has to announce their success usually isn't sure of it.
The one who never mentions it often is. There's psychology underneath this too.
The thrill of a new purchase fades astonishingly fast by the dream car, and within weeks the excitement flattens while the payment lingers for years.
Chasing that feeling means constantly needing something bigger and louder for the same hit, and it never ends.
The wealthy tend to learn this early. The rush from a new object is temporary, but the calm of real security doesn't wear off.
Once you've felt the second one, the first starts looking like a con. This shift is old enough that economists named it.
Back in 1899, Thorstein Veblen coined the phrase conspicuous consumption, describing how the wealthy of his era burned money on visible, useless luxury purely to broadcast status downward.
For most of the last century, that was the entire game: bigger house, louder car, everything aimed at the crowd.
But something changed. Researcher Elizabeth Currid Halkett spent years studying American spending data and found the elite had quietly flipped strategies.
In her 2017 work, she called this inconspicuous consumption.
Instead of flashing logos at the masses, today's wealthy pour money into things invisible from the sidewalk: elite schooling, top-tier healthcare, personal trainers, and above all, time.
The signals still exist, but now they point sideways toward insiders who recognize them, not downward at a crowd meant to be dazzled.
An unmarked cashmere coat says nothing to a stranger and everything to someone in the know. That's the entire point. The ultimate status symbol became not needing anyone to notice at all.
The next reason is simpler and more human. Looking wealthy paints a target on your back. The instant people believe you have money, everything shifts.
Friends start doing quiet math about what you owe them. Distant relatives resurface. Every conversation grows a hidden agenda.
Visible wealth turns you into a mark for scams, for loans that never get repaid, for the business idea that only needs your signature to work. The wealthy learn this fast, often the hard way.
Discretion protects the money, and it protects the relationships too, because when nobody can tell what you have, people have to like you for something other than your wallet.
And here's a truth that deflates the entire flex. People barely notice your things. You clock the nicest car in a parking lot for maybe 4 seconds and forget it forever. Everyone does the same to yours.
The applause you're spending fortunes to earn is faint, brief, and gone almost the moment it arrives.
If this is reshaping how you see money, hit like and stick around. Winds of Thought breaks down the quiet habits that actually build wealth every single week.
Now let's get to what the wealthy are really buying with all that silence. Because this is the whole point of the video.
The real luxury was never the car or the watch. It was freedom, a pay-off house, a retirement account stacked to the top.
An emergency fund deep enough that losing a job becomes an inconvenience instead of a catastrophe.
What the wealthy are actually purchasing is the power to say no to a bad boss, a bad deal, a life they never chose.
Invested quietly, money becomes options, and options are the one thing you can never see through a car window.
Picture that freedom on an ordinary Tuesday. A boss makes an unreasonable demand, and the quiet millionaire simply declines because a few missed paychecks would change nothing about their life.
An industry shifts, and they can retrain, rest, or start something new on their own timeline. A family emergency lands, and they can drop everything without the whole structure collapsing.
That's what all those boring decisions were buying the entire time. Not stuff, but room to breathe.
Take a nurse we'll call Priya, who later opened her own small clinic. She drove the same aging hatchback for 15 years while coworkers upgraded every couple of seasons and teased her constantly.
Meanwhile, she funneled that money into investments and a high-yield savings account currently paying near 5% versus the average bank account's limp 38%.
On $50,000, that's a difference of roughly $250 a year, working for her against about $190 for everyone still parked in the account their bank defaulted them into.
She looked like she was falling behind. She was quietly building an exit. There's a longer game running underneath all this too. Quiet wealth tends to survive, and loud wealth tends to evaporate.
America is in the middle of the largest generational wealth transfer in its history, with something close to $90 trillion expected to pass down over the coming decades.
But study after study shows a huge share of family fortunes vanish within a generation or two of being inherited, usually spent by heirs who learned how to look rich instead of how to stay rich.
The families who hold on are almost always the quiet ones, households where wealth was a habit, not a performance.
Now flip the picture, because this is the uncomfortable part. If the truly wealthy are hiding it, who's doing all the flashing? Often, people who genuinely cannot afford it. That loud car and designer everything is frequently financed on credit. One missed payment from collapse.
Around 8% of people earning under $100,000 a year still buy a luxury car anyway, stretching for a look they haven't earned and paying interest for the privilege.
Picture the loudest neighbor on the street, we'll call him Dominic. New truck every couple of years, the watch he mentions constantly, vacations posted for everyone to see. On paper, he looks like the richest man on the block. In reality, the truck is financed, the watch is on a payment plan, and his savings are close to empty. The chase to look wealthy is the very thing keeping him from ever becoming wealthy, while the quiet man in the 10-year-old sedan 3 doors down could buy him out 10 times over without saying.
Word, that contrast points straight at the trap most people fall into. Comparison is the fastest route to broke.
The moment you measure your life against the loudest people nearby, you start spending money you don't have on things you don't need to impress people who barely register you exist.
Every dollar handed over in that race funds a version of success that isn't even real, given to a crowd that will forget your car by the end of the block.
And notice what the flash actually earns in return, rarely respect.
The person impressed by your new car mostly feels a flicker of envy, wonders how you're affording it, or quietly files you as trying too hard.
Real respect gets built through how you treat people, never through a badge on the hood.
Here's the idea tying this whole thing together. Your wealth isn't what you spend, it's what you manage to keep.
Every status purchase you skip isn't deprivation. It's a deposit into the version of your life where money stops being a source of fear.
The quiet millionaires figured out that the gap between looking rich and being rich is enormous, and they choose being rich every time. Once you know the pattern, you'll start spotting it everywhere. They drive something sensible and a little worn and keep it until it dies.
Money rarely comes up in conversation, and they visibly cringe when others brag about theirs. They ask what things cost and genuinely care about the answer, even though they could easily afford not to.
Their home is comfortable rather than impressive, usually a notch below what their bank account could technically support.
They pay in full, quietly, without ceremony. So how do you actually put this to work? Start treating the plain driveway as a strategy, not a compromise.
Buy the reliable car and let it age with a little pride, investing the difference the flashier version would have cost.
Put money into things that compound, index funds, retirement accounts, a home you actually pay off.
Automate all of it, because willpower fails and systems don't. Park your cash somewhere that actually pays you, not an account earning next to nothing.
And the next time the itch shows up to prove something to people who aren't thinking about you nearly as much as you fear, remember the real cost, a flicker of admiration from a stranger, paid for with years of your own freedom. The wealthy did that math a long time ago, and they always land the same way.
None of this means never enjoying your money. The quiet ones spend plenty on what genuinely matters. A good trip, a comfortable home, time with people they love.
The difference is they spend on purpose for themselves, not on autopilot for an audience. Every dollar has a job, and impressing a stranger has never been one of them.
Which brings us back to that quiet driveway. The unremarkable car, the person you never gave a second thought to, they weren't falling behind.
They were miles ahead and simply chose never to announce it. The richer people get, the quieter they become, because they finally understand wealth was never about being seen.
It was about being free. So tell me, do you know one of these quiet millionaires, the person nobody suspected until you found out the truth?
Or have you caught yourself spending to impress people you don't even like? Drop your story in the comments. I read everyone, and the best conversations on this whole channel happen right there.
And if you're curious why almost nobody figures this out until much later in life, it comes down to the money lesson school never taught us, the ones quietly deciding who ends up wealthy and who ends up loudly broke. That's exactly what the next video from Winds of Thought breaks down, so stay close.